welcome to another episode of Market of the Moment. Hey, Don, we are here again. I know you know who I am, but Sharon Terhune, Sales Manager, Vice President for Fidelity National Title, best title company in Maricopa County.
All the world, probably.
World?
Yeah.
Like world?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
right,
know.
yeah.
What, I don't even know. Is there title? I don't know. But anyway, let's just say world.
Let's go.
I love it.
Yeah, who's going to argue with
And
us?
this is Mr. Don Tchaikovsky, our Director of Channel Sales here at Fidelity National Title. We are excited to continue our conversation regarding the Prospecting Blueprint event that we held.
Yeah.
And all the amazing panels that we had. We had 4 different panels. If you've missed the last 2 weeks, we focused on farming and sphere of influence farming. This
So,
week we're doing farming.
This week's farming.
Sorry. Today we're going to talk about farming.
Yep.
Correction.
Yes.
It's okay, I can be wrong in here.
we did sphere of influence our first week.
Yes,
we did
we did.
phone prospecting last week. Now we're on to
I
farming.
was so close. I got the
Yeah.
one right.
That's all that matters.
It's okay.
Right? That's good enough.
One out
So,
of, whatever. It's
Yeah.
all good. Anyway, so we are moving on to farming today.
Absolutely.
And we had an amazing farming panel that we'll talk about in just a little bit. But what were some thoughts on the farming panel, Don? Like, what did you get out of that?
You know, and I mentioned this when we did our intro a couple weeks ago about just kind of talking about the events as a whole. So the event was on September 6th.
Yeah.
It was so well received, and I was so impressed by our real estate community and how they embraced this event. And again, I think it's because we covered so many different areas. So Janine Igliani was on this panel, and so Janine talked, because it was my question that I wanted to pose them about the cost of farming, because that's what I think most people, when I've met with them during my 9+ years at Fidelity, that they're just like, well, I don't have money to send out this many postcards, I don't have money to do this.
Yeah.
And she and Kenny and Melissa, I know you're still going to do their full introduction here in a minute,
you can do 'em. Go
but they talked about ways that it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be 35,000 postcards out every month and all of these things, right? So they talked about other ways to do a little more grassroots in there, as well as they talked about some of the high level things that they're currently doing.
Yeah.
But I loved that we just kind of covered that whole spectrum, and it was really about, and I think this is Kenny's line, about becoming the mayor of your community, the ambassador to your community.
Yeah, and he's been saying that for many, many years,
Yeah.
and it's so true. I mean, own the community.
Right.
Don't just send some postcards out, right?
Right, and be the resource for the people. Be the one, when they need a plumber, they come to you to find out who the plumber is. When they need a landscaper, they come to you to find out who the landscaper should be, and be the person who hosts the events, and that, and you should feel in a farm that, the people in that community should feel like you're their person. And
I think that's also stemmed a lot of the conversation about branding.
Right.
About branding yourself, because how important it is, like you just said, being that person that everyone all suddenly, no matter what, they see this and they know it's you.
Yeah, so I just think that there is so much value in the conversations that they had and what they provided, of ways to be that central person. And even Melissa's take on things where it was a little bit different, where it wasn't so much the geographic farming, but she was talking about just farming in general, like farming out to your people, and again, building
her sphere of influence.
right,
really.
yeah. And building that relationship with them, where when they needed something that she was the person they thought was going to have the answer. And even like we work that in our career, right?
Yeah,
like we
do.
do. So I get calls on all kinds of random things all the time. Don, do you have somebody for this? Don, do you have somebody for that? And and so to be that value is so important. Before we go into the group, though, I think that it would be kind of neat to talk about some of the farming resources and tools that we have at Fidelity to help
that's a
keep
good
those
idea.
costs down, right?
Yeah.
So we've got everything with predictive analytics. We've got great resources like when I very first started working at Fidelity, I was working with a group, and I was fortunate. I've sat through some events regarding geographic farming, and I was sitting with a group that told me that they had been farming this one particular neighborhood for some time, and that they've knocked every door, that they more than one time, all this, and not even gotten a phone call, not even gotten a lead from it. And so now part of it could be their messaging, right, and the way that they were interacting with folks. But I said, well, what's the turnover rate for the neighborhood? And you know what their response was?
I don't. What is that?
They said, what's a turnover rate? So then I went and did the research and pulled it up, and it was right around 2% turnover rate, which is about 25% of where you want to be ideally.
Exactly.
And so I said, well, the problem with this community is the only way people leave is toes up, and like, so people buy a house here and they stay here their whole life,
right?
and I said, so that's not a great. Not that there's not ways to get involved in all this, but you have to be quadrupling your efforts when you have that small of a turnover rate. So, but helping research those things and deciding where you should be putting your resources is a big thing that we can help somebody with.
Right, and that was a big part of the discussion too. Is how do you prep yourself and set yourself up for success with everything, with all these panels? Because again, it all takes. If you're going to start farming an area, it's not like I just pick a subdivision and go, yeah, I want to pick that. Like you said, research it, figure out how many homes, what's the turnover rates, the
average home sales price,
all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, can you hold open house? I mean, get the facts behind what you can do, because those type of farming, open houses are a big deal. When we talk about open houses.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well, I think it's time for us to take a look into the panel.
Okay.
And so on this panel, we had Melissa Dirks, Kenny Klaus, and Janine Nigliani, and all three of them were absolutely amazing. And just by watching these clips, you're going to take away some value.
We are talking farming, planting those seeds. I love it. This is great. We are going to start off with Miss Dirks over here in her emerald green today. So Melissa, tell us, it seems there's a lot of variations of farming and what that is in prospecting with your farm area. Can you tell us what tools you leverage in your farming?
Actually, this is one of the topics that I absolutely love, because one of the things that I do, technology, friend or foe, right? I am with everybody else, CRM. I use Follow Up Boss, and I can tell you everything we do is in that system. So we use that, and then we use our Fidelity tool, right? Fidelity Farm, so that we can put things into our database and literally pull information, right? Circle prospecting, any expireds. But when I first came into real estate, 2010, literally, oh my gosh, like everybody said, right? Market crashed, and Zillow came into town. I knew no one. I came out of corporate, and I had my mom and 3 aunties in Sun City, right? And I'm like, oh dear Lord, how am I going to do this? And so I became a huge Zillow fan and went, okay, cold call, grab that stuff. But here's why I say farming in my database, because all of those individuals that I helped through there literally went into my database, and they have become my farm. And so they get the emails from me 3 times a week. I do Melissa's Monday Morning Mojo with their coffees, gives them all their little inputs for the week. I do Trend Tuesdays, and it's something fun, trendy. And then Fridays I do a weekender, and then they get their newsletters. I can tell you that, the reason why I have such a huge sphere that comes back in referrals is because I mine and farm my database. And, it's also just one of those tools that it doesn't matter which tool you use, guys, make sure that you stay in contact. I think you've heard it from everybody here, but for myself, farming that database, 100%.
Yeah, love it.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you. Kenny, so how do you get involved in the group, the geographic, I know you're traditional geographic farming, so how do you get involved into that area? What do you do, like as far as like events and charities and all that? What does that look like to be engaged with your farm?
For us, we just carved out a neighborhood and started working that in 2001, and just have consistently done it, since, and expanded through that way. A newsletter that goes out the first of every month. We've done it for 22, 23 years now. Those go out to about 23,000 homes every month, full color, 8 pages. So that's been kind of the foundation that has built the business. But it's more than just sending out a newsletter. Anybody can do that. It's kind of like running for mayor, right? You've got to be out in the public, they've got to see you, they've got to get to know you, kind of become that interesting character in an area that they identify with. And so we did that through, the newsletter originally, videoing businesses to get community involvement. We just got done interviewing the high school football coach for the upcoming season. We'll do the principal, just different things within the community, because it creates contacts within, and those people all live there. But you're coming with the give to receive mentality. I'm not door knocking, a high eye. Door knocking was not my nature, and so I had to find a way for people to call me to want me to come meet with them to sell their home. And so events, of course, we've done countless events over the years, especially when our kids were in school. There was a little more involved then, but we do pom-poms, jag rags, the terrible towel idea that you give out, and then this way that they get to sell them. You give them to them, they sell them, they make money for their booster clubs or whatever. We did water bottles for years. So just anything that we can do to be involved in the community. I was a FedEx guy for 13 years, and so I get used to running a route, and so I just call it my realtor route, if you will. I just run that route consistently. Businesses, residential, get to know all the houses, the businesses. We do a neighborhood network group, third Tuesday of every month for probably the last 12 plus years now. And so you just invite local businesses who want to get in, and the whole goal is just trying to keep dollars in our communities. That's something you'd be interested in. And so just getting out and meeting more people. But for me, it was always like, I've got to bring value. And so, visiting the shopping centers to get our newsletters in all these different businesses. So when their customers come in, there's our newsletters. Took a while, took a lot of failing forward with it. Not everybody, when you start out, not everybody knows who you are, and they don't really care. They just want to know, what can you do for me? And so the idea was, well, we can bring value, and that's kind of how it started. And even the dry cleaners, we did a video for him one time, and afterwards he said, man, this was cool, can you print me something, and I'll just put it on every bag that goes out of here for the next month. And so sometimes opportunities just find themselves because you're doing the right thing, and I would say actions equal opportunities. You don't know if you don't try, and the fastest way to success is just fail faster, so you've got to get out and do stuff. But building a farm has created a foundation that, now door knocking is not awkward like it could be if you don't know the area, they don't know you. You're holding a newsletter, they're standing there, and you're talking about, do you want to make sure you got this, any questions, anything that we should know that we can put in here. It's just very conversational. Everything I look at for our team is, we have to have a purpose for doing it. Even our open houses, if we're going to do an open house, we have our own charity, we have bags, grocery bags, we just take on, hey, the Johnsons asked us to sell their house, we'll be down there Saturday between 10 and 2. Also, the local food banks are a little bit low, as always, so they could use some help if you'd like to come down and bring some canned food to the open house. Because really what you're looking for is sellers. Buyers are the bonus, but you're looking in the neighborhood to see that you're actually out doing activities, and you can leave that bag on their door even if they're not home. They get it, and it's just cool when people walk in carrying a bag of candy. It's a double win, right? You look good for the community, you're doing goodwill. At the same time, you're getting to meet people, and they're not so awkward walking in, say, to the open house, because they're walking in with an item of value that they're getting. And so they don't feel like I just want to peek around my neighbor's house or that kind of stuff. So just very thought out, very purposeful in the plan. And then, of course, we've been through all these different markets. So, once you build a trusted audience, you just adapt the message to whatever the market is at the time. And the Phoenix market, as we all know, has been nothing short of having new content all the time to talk about. We hit short sales and foreclosures. Well, then it was, we have a newsletter going out, we just changed the message. Avoid foreclosure, know your options, come out to our event at the clubhouse, and we're going to talk about how to avoid it. We had an attorney, CPA, and ourselves there just to invite people. And then it was the investor market, then we got into, Open Door hit the market and said, okay, we got to understand that product and how to adapt that for people. Just constant seller workshops, buyer workshops, just anything that you can do. And even if people don't show up, they're seeing that you're doing something, and over time you become like, this guy's active in the community and trying to do good in the community. So.
Something you said I loved, you talked about adapting to your audience, right? So we're on vacation in Rocky Point in June, and I might have texted Kenny a picture. I'm like, you are everywhere, my friend. This is crazy. So we're at the Reef, and he has cornhole things with the Klaus team all over it. And I mean, this is the perfect example of living, playing, and working all in the same place, right? All in the same place, because I truly do believe that's balance in life, right? When you can do that all at the same time. So great job. Thanks, Kenny. All right, appreciate it. All right, next question is for Miss Janine. Janine, if you were starting a new farm today, which could be a little scary, a lot of us farmed maybe at the beginning of our careers. Farming can be taken so many different ways too, because we've heard about mailing farmings. We've heard Melissa talk about how it's really your database, aka farming, and what that looks like through email, through anything, texting, farming, through postcards and everything else. But Janine, if you were starting a new farm today and wanted to get established in that farm area or that database of some sort, what would be the first few things that you would do?
Sure. By the way, thanks for having us. I am super honored and humbled to be sitting here amongst these guys, so super cool. But yeah, farming, I started 10 years ago. I'll tell you how I started out. I had no money, I had very little time, and I had my dad as my mentor. And so I asked him, Dad, what do I do that's going to make me the most money in the quickest amount of time, because I am limited? And he gave me a plan, and that's the plan that I will share with you guys. So first and foremost, you want to pick an area. It could be a defined HOA community. It could be, a block that you create out. It could be half of a neighborhood, but you want to define your area. Then you want to know those numbers. So look at how many homes are there, how many homes have sold, and know your turnover rate. I think it's also good to look at, is there a dominant realtor that's selling in this area? And not that you can't do it either, just so you know who your competition is. I think areas when you're starting out, you want to pick as close to home as possible. Your neighborhood would be amazing because you're going to know it really well, and you're going to get to see those neighbors as you're out and about. If there's an elementary school, even better. Unfortunately, high schools are awesome, but the parents aren't as involved at the high school level. So if you can get with an elementary school, even better. And then kind of what we had said already is coming from contributions. So I meet with the PTOs at the beginning of every school year and just say, hey, what do you guys have going on? What can we help with? Truly, it's all about them, not about us. I don't have to ask for business because that will naturally come. We really come from value and how can I help them? And then from there, door knocking is amazing. So statistically, 1 in every 8 people are thinking about moving. And so when I started door knocking, I wanted to meet people. I wanted to have those conversations. And I hated cold calling. Sorry guys, that was not my thing. But wanted to get in front of them and have those conversations. And so door knocking was a really easy way to do it. You want to always have a piece of value, something informative, whether it's a newsletter, a market update, an upcoming community garage sale. We can talk about that in a second. But you really want to give them something of value and just have that conversation. What's really amazing is when you farm and you do it consistently, the few times this year that I've door knocked, and as time goes on, people will open the door and say, I know who you are, and I love what you do for our community. Those are like the biggest compliments that I could get, right? And you already come with credibility, and they already know your reputation, so it's much easier. I rarely compete on listings in my farm, rarely. And most of the time I come in and they have my marketing materials there that they've saved for when that time came. They knew that they wanted to call me. So marketing is another important piece. A lot of people think farming is super expensive, and again, I started out and had no money. So we were copying black and white flyers, stapling a rubber band to the corners so that we could hang it on their door if they didn't answer. And we just did that consistently. I would go out, my son was a few months old, push him in the strollers, put my headphones on, and just go hang my flyers on their doors super early in the morning. As time goes on, being able to partner with vendors that can help support some of those costs is really helpful. But the biggest thing that I would say with all of this is the consistency aspect. You have to be consistent. So I think it's really important to have a marketing plan, knowing what you're doing, and you're accountable to that calendar. So hitting your farm at least every month is so important. I also think it's really good to hit them in a variety of ways. So for example, in my home, my husband's a firefighter, so when he's off, he's home during the day. So if something was hung on their door, it's more likely that he's gonna see it than me. And for me, I don't know why, but I love going to the mailbox. So if something's in my mail, I'm gonna be the one that grabs it. Either way, you have a very short time frame before they take it off their door or pull that piece of, and let's be honest, it's junk mail out of their mail and throw it away. We want our branding to be super consistent to where they see it and they're like, oh, there they are again, there they are again. One of the things that I get all the time is, Janine, you're everywhere. I see your stuff everywhere. I don't sell all the homes in my farms. I wish I did. I'm working on it. But that's their perception because I'm consistently marketing to them, right? They're getting to see me on a regular basis. So there's that idea of, okay, she's there, she's everywhere. One of the other things that we do, and again, we partner with our lender on this, is we do for every single listing, coming soon, just listed, just sold. If our buyer buys in our farm, we're also doing 2 marketing pieces, and we do those to at least 100 of the surrounding homes. So they're getting hit with the same home, the same piece of information 3 separate times. And to be honest, they're not paying attention that this is the same home. They just think, wow, she sells a lot of homes in my neighborhood, right? And what's really fun is when you can see that, you can see the calls come in because they're seeing your listings, and you tend to kind of see this little like flow of homes where you're like, okay, I've been marketing to them consistently. Take advantage of open houses. If you don't have a listing in your farm, but someone else does, if you can host that and you can market around it, even better. Am I missing something? Hold on. Oh, one thing I would say too, besides the consistency factors, I think that is truly the most important. So many people will start out and say, I want to farm, and they'll send a postcard for a few months and they won't get a call and they'll think, well, this doesn't work, so I'm going to quit. And what ends up happening is that success, had they just stuck with it, was just around the corner, right? So you got to be consistent. For me, it was month 11 where I saw this pop in my business, where business was coming in. It was like, wow, this stuff is really works. So stay with it. People are going to hire, they want to work with someone they know, like, and trust, right? And geographic farming, and when you combine that with community events and giving back initiatives, really gives you the opportunity to be that. I get referrals from people that have never met me, but because they see what we do in our community and they see our success, they're inclined to refer us out. And that's the biggest compliment. So I think when you farm and you farm the right way, it gives you the opportunity to do all of that, to be all of that for everybody. So be a referral partner for somebody, even if they've never met you. You can be someone that they can get into a relationship with, that they feel like they're friends with because they see you at community events, hosting things and giving back in their community. And then you get to be the neighborhood expert, which is huge, right? And especially in a shifting market, people are not going to go with their friend who just got their license. They're going to go back to that trusted neighborhood expert because there's such uncertainty. So when you farm the right way, you get an opportunity to be all 3 of those for somebody.
Excellent, thank you. So this is actually my first time in a meeting with me today. And so it's funny because I was speaking with an agent over the weekend, and they were telling me about how they had this person kept visiting their open house. They had a house that they were selling in Power Ranch, and they said they already have an agent, but they kept coming to the open house and all these questions. I'm like, was it Janine? And how did you know that? And I'm like, Power Ranch, it's Janine. So if it was Augusta Ranch, it's Kenny. I know. That's thank you for joining us, and thank you guys all. So I want to remind everybody about the QR codes to scan those. I know that you're not all able to get to those right now, so when we're on our networking lunch, we're going to make sure these slides are up there. You're able to get back to those and get those scanned if you need to get those. So.
Hey, Don, can I add one more thing?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, so also, guys, for your tools, one of the things I forgot to mention, and after listening to you guys, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to mention that. So one of the things that we do on the team is we are very engaged with our database. I know who likes hockey games. I have tags for every single one of my clients. I know who wants to go to a Coyotes game, Cardinals game, a movie night, and it is so important to make sure that you are in touch with your audience. I know through HomeBot, okay, who is looking at their HomeBot who needs a CMA. Guys, let me tell you, if someone is opening that more than twice, you need to be calling. I have an ISA that literally says, Melissa, here is everybody who just opened HomeBot, who do I need to call, right? I know what every single one of those people are doing. You know why? Because I called them, right? We stay in touch. I have a client of mine who is a Cubs fan from Chicago, and every year I make sure he has those tickets. You know why? He has sent me 12 coworkers. 12. And so, you know, I have someone who works for the airlines. Every time that they're out flying, I make sure, hey guys, if you come across anybody looking at Phoenix real estate, 2 referrals right off a plane. So make sure to know, that's why I farm my database, because those are the people, like we said, know, love us, trust us. And even though I started with literally knowing no one, that database now is my gold mine. And so make sure to always just, whatever you do, plug things in there. Create tags that will remind you. When you drive past a neighborhood, right? Oh my gosh, I haven't talked to that person in forever. Doesn't matter if they answer, it's, oh my gosh, I just drove past your neighborhood, right? Those are those things. Make sure to do and leverage your tools to help you thwart your business to the next level.
Thank you, absolutely, thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to our speed dating portion. No, we don't allow it to date, just so you know, that's not a requirement. But, sorry, Michelle. So I saw the look of this spring there. So I do want to talk about, because, you know, as working in the title industry, I get a lot of questions about farming, and a lot of questions about people who are looking to start it. So, you know, now the biggest challenge I think for most folks is it can be cost intensive, and Janine kind of addressed this already. And I love the fact you do black and white copies and all that stuff to get it going. But what would your feedback be for somebody to manage those costs as they're getting that up and going? Client events cost money, all these things cost money. And if you're newer, you don't have those relationships where everybody's like, oh, I want to sponsor this for you, because you haven't really established yourself yet. So what would you say to that person who's looking at that? So Janine, you're right
30
there.
seconds or less.
Partner with the HOA if possible, support them, find other local community businesses that you can partner up with. In our different farms, we will utilize different vendor sponsors that live in that neighborhood because it's more beneficial for them. That's it. I mean, there's more. Love it.
Do you want all of us to answer that?
Yeah. Please.
Actually leverage your partners. You know, I actually leverage my inspectors, my lenders, my title, and we give them the opportunity to actually go out and truly meet the people that sometimes they've never gotten the opportunity to meet. So I think that's really a fun way to leverage. You know, they have so many free tools, guys. They really help our industry. Make sure to partner up with them to get all of the tools that are available to you. Love it.
Question again?
Starting off a farm, keeping it low cost, you're a new agent, what are you doing to manage the costs around getting that farm up and going?
I mean, it's a lot of the same activities we do, period. It's just, it's hyper-focused. It's more of a sniper mentality than just a shotgun, right? You're looking at, like, I want to work this area, so setting open houses for someone if you can was mentioned. That's easy. Door knocking with your flyer in the beginning, you can't afford postage. It's not, it's cheap, and it's not so much the quality or it's just the consistency and a message out there that you care, you live in the area, or you know, this is our backyard. You know, visiting businesses to try to get content for your flyer, for your newsletter, for your website, for your social media page, is easy. Previewing properties, and that was a huge part for me in the beginning, just so I got to know every house, every builder, every model. I mean, you freak people out with this stuff now, but we have it, and we know the data behind it, and it just makes you very relevant. I mean, for a lot of people to go to a listing when you're shotgunning around, you know, it takes you a long time to prepare, you're nervous, are you really the best person to be serving them? All these things can start to go through your head. When you're farming, I mean, you already know the houses, you already know the area, you know the schools, you know the neighborhoods, you know what's happening, you know the clubs, the organizations. And people said it earlier too, and I think it's important. People, you know, we have communities for a reason, because people naturally migrate together and want to be together. And I mean, to me, database is number one, pass repeat without a doubt. So much of our database is from the farm now. It's just, we have to classify everything with like 2 classifications, like original, lead source, and current, because a lot of them came from the farm, but now they're, deep, repeat clients. And so I think, to me, if you've read MREA, you have Mets and haven't Mets. And for me, farming kind of falls in the middle. I may not have met them yet, but I haven't not met them yet because they've already kind of got to know who we are. Magnum in the fridge, newsletter's already on the counter. And the newsletter is, for us, is based on zip codes. And so it's not real estate all over the place. It's just, we're kind of in the middle of the newsletter. And that's how it makes it from the mailbox to the kitchen counter, because it's not junk. There's stuff in there. What community garage sales, see a car show that's coming up. Things that are hyper-local that they can't necessarily get from mainstream media. The big stories they've already got, you're wasting your time. And by the way, by the time they get into print and go out, they're irrelevant. But a local thing that's coming up can be very, very powerful, and it causes them to want to read that material because it's not something they're getting, elsewhere. So.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Another thing that I've actually come to figure this out is really successful is small events, like more personal events where I invite people into my home. I just did a ladies' night. We did wine tasting and permanent jewelry, very inexpensive, and I'm super strategic with who I invite to those events too.
Love that. That's perfect. If you were to name, just give me one thing out of, because there's so many different ways. Again, we've been talking about farming. Our next group coming up is going to talk a lot about social media, but any kind of farming, whether it's mailing, it could be text messaging, it could be phone calls, it could be door knocking, social media, whatever it is. What would you say is your number one ROI that you think will get you your quickest return with farming?
For me, they're all really effective, but my favorite personally is I do utilize BombBomb, and I will send out video emails to my farm on a regular basis, and typically I'm inviting them to an event or letting them know what's going on. Under 3 minutes, but a quick little snippet, they see my face, and pretty much every time one of those goes out, I get a response where it's like, hey, I've been meaning to reach out to you, I'm thinking of selling. Hey, this is going on, so.
All right, Melissa, next. We're going to cut off. We're moving along. This is Sharon. Have you met me? We are moving on. Quick answers.
I will say that for myself, it is definitely my events. I do e-bites for those, and I do these really cute, and then, invitations, and people love them. Everyone always asks me, Melissa, when's the movies? What are we doing this year? So everyone knows I put on 2 to 3 a year, and they can't wait because they get goodie bags. So for me, those are my biggest return. I can tell you, I walk away with probably 10 to 15 every single year just off of my movie events. And I always ask them surveys, hey guys, this is what's coming out. Who wants to see what? And we do a charity. Huge military in my family. My son's serving at Pearl Harbor right now. And so one of the things that we do is we say, listen, we're holding a charity event for either, Soldier's Best Friend. We have several different ones, and people cannot wait to do that.
Awesome. Kenny.
I would just say, ask yourself the question as you're doing any kind of marketing or anything you're doing is the message, what's in it for them, or is it what's in it for you? And so much of our stuff is what's in it for you, right? It's like, I'm number one, I'm this. They really don't give a rip. I mean, they're already looking at you. So what can you do? What problem can you solve for them? And then market to that problem and create a call to action. And I think at the end of the day, it's just take action. I think there's so many great things you guys have heard. It's a matter of not just trying a little bit of all of them, just picking something and going deep with that. Don't just dip your toe in, go deep and stay consistent. Because to Janine's point, I got a listing the first month, but I went 7 months without. There's a lot of quitting points within that of what am I doing, why am I doing this, spending money every month. The reality is it's probably the cheapest piece of marketing we do based on the return today that it's put down. And if you think you're going to be in this business more than 2 years, 5 years, I don't see why anybody wouldn't just build a home base, a foundation because now that's what's pushed us out in other places. Because clients move out, you still work those other areas. It's just this is what has created the consistency to the business. The only reason we shared that about the Home Sold Today thing is not to pat our backs. There's no ego stuff. We're here to help and share and help other people do better. It's the consistency in one of the most inconsistent markets in the United States. And you guys have all seen the rankings, and a lot of those top 10 aren't there next year, and the next year, and the next year. And I hate to say we're happy being number 2, but we'll be number 2 if we're there every single year because of consistency. And I think that's what this has given me, is that a lot of realtors wake up every day without a plan, without a purpose, and they react to email, social media, whatever it is, and they look up and they worked a full day. Well, they were at the office a full day, but they didn't have a purpose. They didn't know what they were aiming for. And with farming, you have to get content, you have to have deadlines, you have to write copy, you have to get interviewed, you have to do stuff. So it gave me a purpose, because the one thing you have in the beginning for most people is time. And what are you doing with your time? And are you building something that's going to be building blocks for the future? And my goal is to look up in 10 years and go, okay, now I have a business. And it doesn't require me anymore. It's a business in a geographic area. Most agents don't have that exit strategy. We have an exit strategy for those agents. Feel free to talk to us on that. But it's more like a legacy business that can be predictable, repeatable for years to come. And it's finding the who's and creating opportunities.
Awesome. Guys, give a round of applause for this amazing panel. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, that was so fun. What a great panel, right? So much great information shared. And you know, if you got a little taste of that and you're like, gosh, I wish I had more, and I wish I was there, but I wish I got more in depth with that particular agent, or on how they do the different things that they're doing and really capitalize on farming. We actually have some breakout stuff that's going to start in October, right on through November, where some of these folks are going to be hosting some very specific breakout sessions regarding farming. And in past weeks, we had other subjects, sphere of influence and phone prospecting and stuff. So we're going to dig into all those on a whole different level.
And that's the thing, like in an event like this, it's really, it's high level stuff, right? We're not able to dig into the weeds and everything, because those aren't going to be important to everybody in the room.
Right.
And so we don't want to spend our time like going through all the detail stuff. But if it's something that's speaking to you and you want more of those details, we're going to be making arrangements with the panelists to be able to have conversations with them, as well as some workshops that we're going to be doing to help you to carry it into the next level.
Yeah. Well, and I literally was just in a meeting talking about this and how important, especially when we're talking about farming, right now is the opportune moment to if you're not farming, to pick like a community to farm in, okay?
Right.
Because we're going into the holidays. There's so many reasons to be out there and to talk about things, and really to set your pipeline up for first quarter of 2024, and really have that farm, especially if you're doing farming, be several months into, as we get into first quarter, and you'll be really rocking and rolling by second and third quarter of next year, which again, we're all about setting you up for success going into the next year.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, I think we now need to transition over to Miss Mindy Jones, our market master, and Mindy's going to give us the updates on what's happening around the Phoenix area. So what do we got going on, Mindy?
The big talk this week is about why buyers should hang in there, especially in spite of those fluctuating interest rates. As we quickly transition into fall, even though I know it might not feel that way outside, we are seeing a bit of an uptick in available listings, which means you've got a few more options to choose from. With the median sales price just a tiny bit under our peak in the summer of 2022, it might not seem like you're getting a steal, but with more than 40% of buyers getting help towards their closing costs, we're seeing some pretty happy buyers getting into homes before the holidays. Sellers are closely watching their days on market, knowing more negotiations come with each passing day. And from a preparation perspective, know that the closer we get to those holidays, the longer days on market you might want to prepare for. We continue to see stabilization in our pricing, and we'll probably see that go up a little bit in the next month. Some of our hottest markets are seeing a slight cooling trend, but there is opportunity for buyers. Chandler, Glendale, and Phoenix are at the top of the charts, while Goodyear, Queen Creek, and Maricopa make up the bottom. So why hang in there? Well, closing cost assistance will be one of the first things to go when we see those rates drop. And as sellers approach longer days on market, it's likely we'll see both active listings and price reductions start to go up this fall. So maybe the question isn't why hang in there, but why not get out there?
Welcome back, Mindy. Thank you so much for that update. That was great, and always enjoy your updates. I think we're going to hear a little bit more from you possibly next week too.
Yeah.
On our last panel there, right? So
Absolutely.
just a little sneaky, a little
Preview
to come,
there,
little
yeah.
preview to come. But how about we hear what's going on in the mortgage world?
Love it.
Amber Kovarik, Guild Mortgage, what's going on?
Hey, it's Amber Kovarik with a quick mortgage update. So currently interest rates are remaining stubbornly high, and we just passed a 20-year high for mortgage interest rates. And part of this is from the most recent Fed meeting, where the Fed basically said that we should expect the Fed funds rate to remain higher for longer. That was not really good news for our mortgage interest rates. And so what does the future hold? Really, when we look to see like where are mortgage rates headed, we need to look at where is inflation headed. Because as inflation comes down, mortgage rates will come down, and it's likely going to be like a 1-to-1 ratio. So for instance, if inflation comes down 2%, we're likely going to see mortgage interest rates follow and come down by 2%. Now, what does the timing of that look like? We recently had the smartest person at Guild and one of the smartest people that I know host a webinar for us. He is uber connected in Washington, D.C., worked at Fannie Mae for 20 years, is extremely knowledgeable. And his prediction is that we will see interest rates come down about 1% a year from now, then another percent a year following, so in 2025, and then likely a little lower in 2026. So what that means is that we have about another year of rates trending in this range of maybe, high 6s to mid 7s. But the reminder for our clients, like I always say, is that if they have the ability and they can afford to buy today, we know how important it is. Because as interest rates come down, every 1% drop in rates says 5 million more buyers enter the housing market nationwide. That demand is going to change the scenery for these entry-level buyers that potentially don't have the cash to compete. So although interest rates are high, and the affordability might not be where they want it to be, we have to keep explaining based on the numbers why homeownership matters, what this looks like for them in 3 to 5 years down the line. That's something that we specialize in. So if you have any clients that are questioning, is now the right time? Should I just continue to rent? Let us build some strategies for them so that we can help them to understand, looking at the numbers, what this means for them. Thanks.
Amber, thank you so much. Appreciate all of your updates every week, and thank you for taking the time to share that with us. Okay, well, this is 3 weeks down of the 4 weeks that we're spending on the Blueprint panel.
Yep.
And so just love everything that's been shared so far. Next
Yeah.
week, we are onto social media. So,
It's a great subject. Don't miss it.
Yeah, and so we know that, and we were there, so we know how much
I
value
know,
that was out
so
there already.
good. So
excellent. Okay, well, we'll see you next week.
Ciao.